What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we are here with Francesco of Light the Torch. Thank you so much for being here, man. It's great to be able to see you again.
Hey, how's it going? Good to see you again.
Yeah, it's been a hell of a crazy year. I mean, who would have thought that? I think the last time we hung out was at Incarceration Festival in 2019, which was a hell of a time, and what a bizarre turn of events the world has taken.
For real. Yeah.
Yeah.
For everybody. But yeah, just seriously, it's like everybody got affected in a crazy way.
I know. It definitely makes a subject. It definitely is a fuel for creativity, though, as I like to think, trying to be optimistic.
Yeah, I think so. Like I have so many like colleagues in the either the music or the visual art world who got just all of a sudden started getting more time, and then all the things that you've been hoping one day I'll have more time to dedicate for this project or this other thing, and this was the time to do it. So it's at least, I mean, I'm trying to just find the positive side of it, and for me that was basically that.
Definitely. Definitely. And we finally are getting some new Light the Torch music. We got the new album, You Will Be the Death of Me, coming out very soon. Could the first single that you released, Wilting in the Light, almost serve as like a good representation of what this whole album will sound like? Or is that just the tip of the iceberg?
I have to say that uh us obviously been working in the studio and working on the song for a long time. When we got all the songs done, and then we started thinking about like, oh, what will be the first song that we would release? It's like that was not one of the first one we thought, because like we all agreed that had somewhat of a different sound, but everybody from like management, the label, producers started saying like it is a different sound, but it's got that edge. It's different, and it's fresh. So let's try with that. So I guess like with the previous record Revival, we released Die Alone, which was like a safer kind of first single. And this time we went with something a little, I don't know, more edgy, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, the fact that all the radio people that we sent it to before releasing it were excited about the song, and label, and everybody's like, well, okay, let's give it a shot.
Definitely. And like as somebody who has been following the band since the Devil You Know days, I mean, I don't know if this was the first tour, but first saw you and Howard and Ryan all play together on the Lacuna Coil tour in 2014. And so like, and I've been following you ever since, and I'd be able to tell if you played me 30 seconds of a song, okay, that's off of The Beauty of Destruction, that's off of They Bleed Red, that's off of Revival. So it's fair to say that like, You Will Be the Death of Me isn't just a continuation of Revival, right? It's more or less just a new approach like you've always taken.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's definitely, I think like overall, we just like that challenge. It's like, try to beat the previous record or try to evolve in a way that is like, it does feel like fresh and motivates us. It's like, it's understandable when you have like bands that have been around for like 30 years and they kind of want to keep putting out in a way, like they don't want to put out something drastically different. And because their fan base, I think for us it still feels like we need to push, and then we need to just better ourselves as artists, and just release products that just get better.
Yeah.
And I think that was the main goal, just push. you know
Well, the number one thing I was impressed about when I first heard, the band play back in the day was it didn't sound like just a combination of Kill Switch Engage, All Shall Perish, and Bleeding Through. Like, it just seemed like you all completely evolutionized. Like, from listening to you play with All Shall Perish, which is undoubtedly, very deathcore oriented and all that, to hear a song as melodic, like I loved the riffing and the melodic soloing in Raise the Dead. I just always thought that that had so much groove to it. And then, to have like a very melancholy song like For the Dead and Broken off of the first album, it seemed like you were able to really, all of you were really able to approach new territory.
yeah, absolutely. And I think like more and more it's like we're all fans of all kinds of music, all different genres, and so it's like, why not just incorporate those elements? It's like in a band like Ocean Parish, obviously that was a, that was like you had to follow some guidelines, even in terms of writing. And but in this case, it's kind of like just up to us.
Yeah. And like, I know that with Revival, a lot of people acknowledge this, and I'm sure maybe you were even aware of it too, that was probably the most melodic record so far in the catalog, like, compared to They Bleed Red, which I thought was relentless. And like, do you ever start like a new album with like a preconceived idea of what you want to do? Like, do you and Howard and Ryan kind of go into the studio, okay, let's do this, or is there a lot of like trial and error and experimentation?
Uh, I mean, it usually starts with just me demoing stuff and sending those over to Howard and Ryan, and just start seeing how they kind of react to them. If I send something like I might try something completely different, and then I send it over, and then if I hear Howard saying like, "Absolutely, dude, I wanna work on it," cool. If it's like, okay, this could be it's a bit of a stretch, or it's like, oh, we can try to work on it in the studio, and so it is like, to me, it's like, and that's why I also like to take my time, when I start writing, to just experiment and then see, what we can do. And I think like in this record, there's definitely a couple songs that people gonna hear is like, wow, this sounds really different. But I love the fact that they sound different, but it fits. You know what I'm saying? And that's like ultimately music that we want to do. It's really that. It's like since the beginning, it's like, obviously you start working with Howard, everybody's expecting like, oh, is he gonna do like a kill switch type of sound? Is like that's what, and that would be kind of like a safer thing, right? It's like you start with that, like you're gonna make a lot of fans happy. But from the get go, for us was not really like that was not really what we're interested in. And Howard himself is like, I don't want to do another band that sounds like that, because what would be the point?
Yeah.
And so yeah, so there's like this factor of just you know experimenting that is like so much fun in the beginning. And so I think like also the fact that I do write a lot of songs, it's like in terms of like quantity, so that once we start pre-production, we get to pick what really could be the best. I don't just show up with like 10 songs, 12 songs. It's something like at least 20, or and then other ideas. And even studio, I keep writing, I keep like bringing ideas, like changing parts of one song. And it's like, I think it's, yeah. And and overall, it's like everything starts like getting to a point where it starts becoming like one sound, and starts all fitting for one record.
Yeah, and it's funny too, from talking to the fans of Light the Torch, like it was amazing, because like just when they thought they knew who Howard was, just when they thought they knew who you were, just when they thought they know who Ryan was from the previous bands, it was like it really felt like, wow, we're discovering sides of these musicians that we've never seen before, because we've seen plenty of super groups, we've seen plenty of collaborations. Like when I listened to a band like Hell Yeah, for example, I definitely, I felt Vinnie Paul's groovy drums, I felt, Chad Gray's, aggressive vocals that he brought in Mudvayne. I felt a little bit of Nothing Face incorporated in there. But when I hear Light the Torch and Devil You Know, just because of the first two albums, like it didn't sound like, it just sounded like a new band. I couldn't associate it with other projects, which I think is
That's
very
awesome.
difficult to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good to hear.
The next two questions I actually have are regarding to your guitar playing. The first question I wanted to ask is because the first two albums had two guitar players, so like I would thought that there maybe has an essence of riffing versus soloing, but like with Revival and You Will Be the Death of Me, have you maybe had to like adjust your guitar playing in a way where, or maybe adjust the songwriting structure to maybe fit that one guitar style in a way?
Yeah, and in fact, as like more and more sound design, synthesizers, it's kind of like if I'm playing a heavy riff that I'm thinking about like live, what's going to be more like more powerful? It's like me like hitting like lower notes and then have like some kind of layering done with synthesizers. And so that's kind of like more the approach currently. And with the first two records with Devil You Know was just straight up just like thought about having two guitar players on stage, and so the typical rhythm and lead. And this one is kind of like, it is thought more as a one guitar, but obviously there's some layering like everybody does, because it's like you still want to, especially on the record, like on the actual record, you want to hear all those layers and stuff.
Yeah.
I apologize. There's a the trash truck.
I thought the SWAT team was breaking into your house for a second. I was like, what the hell?
It's literally outside my house now.
It's all good. It's all good. And also, because the other thing is because of Howard's versatile vocal style, because he has really aggressive styles and very melodic styles, you almost have to like adjust your effects or maybe even adjust your playing style to kind of like fit the vocal melody and the vocal aggression in a way.
I think like more and more we're learning how to complement each other in a way. So I'm like, I think I know how to write better music for Howard now, and the more that we progress and evolve, we have that feeling. And then so also I think Howard now knows what to expect from, if I start working on some ideas, he kind of knows where it's going to go. And so it's like, and in this case, like, so obviously, like, anybody could tell, even with Revival, there's a lot less screaming than there was in Devil, and we kind of kept going with this direction in You Will Be the Death of Me. And so, yeah, it's like, so you think about creating those dynamics, those different moments, and still have like the special feeling of when things all of a sudden do get really aggressive. And then maybe there's less screaming, but that one scream that you hear, it's got a different energy now.
Yeah, and I know that Ryan also, and I don't know if this is just live or also in the album, but he also contributes backup vocals as well. So it seems like instrumentation also really supports each other.
Yeah. Ryan's such an amazing voice. He's like, I'm a blue bull, and obviously it's like a great weapon we have, and that we keep using more and more. It's like even on this new record, there are a lot of songs that, there's like parts where you just only hear Ryan. You don't even hear Howard. Wow. So he's got a lead vocal part, and even like the interesting harmonies, and we definitely experimented with some of that stuff too, even with the slower songs. So yeah, it's like at this point, it's like a very important part of our sound. It's like having both vocals, and it's interesting because like with the first two Devil records, obviously Ryan was in the band, but everything was recorded by Howard, all the harmonies and everything. And then it got to a point where even Howard was the first one to just to say, it's like, I think like live we do sound a certain way, and it's part of also Ryan doing like his harmonies. And so apologize. And so let's start doing that in the studio. And then and that developed into something like, I think like I don't know if you heard the entire record yet.
I haven't. Don't spoil it for me.
Okay. Yeah. But so there's like parts where you just really hear Ryan's voice, like the presence in the mix. It's like it's really cool. I think it's really cool.
I'm excited to hear that. Do you have a theoretical background behind your guitar playing? Because I remember when I first heard My Own, when you get into that first verse, you hear like the guitar kind of like moving up and down, and it almost sounds like a scale in a way. And then like, again, Raise the Dead might be my favorite song in the catalog at this point, but like that guitar soloing just brings so much groove, and the way that it leads you in. Do you actually like think about scales or modes, or are you completely self-taught?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like the fact that I have a degree in music, that's part of me. It's like, that's obviously something that I have inside. But I think like more and more over the years, I just, it's like when you go to school, that's a typical thing. It's like, even for me, it's like you go to an art school in general, and then you're taught that you're gonna learn a lot of rules and things that are the right things to do. But then the whole point is like to get to mature to the point where you start breaking rules. You start making your own, you create your own rules. And I think like at this point, I'm kind of like, it's like you digested all that theory, all that that knowledge in a way that's like you start kind of like not thinking about it anymore. It's still there, but now it's like more free to flow, and things happen just more naturally. And so I think like that's kind of like the approach that I have now. It's I don't really sit down and think about like a previously about a chord progression, like in terms of like the theory behind. I just hear in my head, and it just and I start working on it.
Yeah, and that's good that you like know how to break the rules because you don't want to be too lost in chaos, but you also don't want to be too like enslaved to theory either. I think you have kind of like the
Yeah,
best of both worlds.
nice.
Another, and of course, one question I really wanted to ask you. I specifically requested you because I didn't know this until I met you at Saint Vitus, and I was asking you like, oh, who did the artwork? Because I thought that the artwork for Revival, like, I love the presentation of each album as well. For you as a graphic designer, I also have noticed that Howard is always in a band with a graphic designer. I know that Mike D from Killswitch also
Yeah.
does the artwork. Is there a similar creative energy that you channel into visual art as you do with music? Is there something that ties it together, or do you consider visual art and sonic art just completely two separate mind frames?
No, to me, they're like so connected. It's like with art, it's like what I was like, I started getting into it because like, I just like, I love the world of concept art, like the work of a concept artist. And so being basically working on a project as a concept artist, it's like writing a song. You're just a composer. You create this whole like story behind, and then you start singing in your head, and then just like, and it's basically in terms of one. If you have one image, that image is supposed to tell a story. In terms of a song, you have like 3 minutes to 3.5 minutes to just basically tell that story. So it's like the approach is very similar, and and so for me, it's like in this case, I waited to like to be like in the studio to really start hearing what was happening, how the music was developing, and that's when I kind of started and I started talking to Howard. It's like I started seeing certain colors, and then to me, I was telling him like to me like blue was a big thing because like I would just think about this record and I would see blue, and then and this other variations like, and then because the record does have like I was saying earlier, it's like I mean it could be a silly word, but like there's like this edgy kind of feel that I feel with this music, and so that's to me that started being like the like kind of like adding some neons and something like that, and then from that just like being a fan of like obviously 80s and 90s movies, and and think about like because it's us and because it is Howard, and he does come from a background that has also like that powerful like metal voice, right? So it's like you start thinking about 80s and 90s metal, and so it's like the visuals in a way I wanted to have in a way that vibe, and then I started thinking about like the John Carpenter's movies and things like visual effects that you were seeing this kind of movies like the even the fog, like the mist that you were seeing in certain scenes and the neons like that. So it's like that's kind of like how I created this like in my head this the artwork for this one. So yeah, it's like it's definitely like very connected. It's like the two things happen. You know, like they're very close.
And you kind of in a way just answer this, but you actually have the synesthesia thing where you hear certain notes, you see certain colors, and like
Yeah.
and the vision for the artwork comes as like as you're making the album too, as like, or do you prefer to
Yeah.
maybe listen to the whole album in order before you like kind of get to the drawing board of the artwork?
Like actually, like to me, already when we started like pre-production, we finished the first week of pre-production with 3 songs, and that was already to me like that was the sound. Like I understood like that is the sound, and that's when I started like working on. And then we had like a couple months break between the first week of pre-production and the second week of pre-production, and during that time I was both writing more music, and I started working on the album artwork. So it's like it did already kind of like, I don't know, and maybe some of the other music that I wrote after was influenced by the artwork that was creating at the same time. You know, start thinking about certain colors and having the certain vibe in the whole record.
I've always said that there needs to be like a big art show, like rent a room at the Metropolitan Museum of Art called like the Art of Metal, and have your artwork, Jacob Bannon, John Baisley, Mike D. I know that Alan Robert from Life of Agony does his comic book artwork. Like I really feel like Nicholas Sundin, formerly at Dark Tranquility, like they all just do great artwork. That I feel like that would be a great like thing to curate, like a real art show
Yeah,
where
absolutely.
yeah, because
I love that. I love that.
and I just those are my favorite conversations to have with musicians. You know, I've done thousands of interviews, but there are always people who dabble into multiple mediums and kind of like create multiple experiences that they could share with their listeners and their viewers. And like, does the inspiration for creativity, and this could go for both visual art or music, does the inspiration sometimes strike when you least expect it, or do you almost have like a certain go-to place to for that creative?
Well, it's like especially with music, like the two main, like the thing that I see, uh, like the main difference between like doing music and doing like visual arts, to me, it's like the type of adrenaline and emotions. Like with music, let's say I could be like working on a song for a day or two, and then I'm stoked with the song, and then I feel this rush, this like adrenaline just from listening to back, right? With the artwork, it's different because it's like a progressive thing. It's like you're seeing it, it's just happening slowly in front of you, and it stays in front of you, right? So it's like a slower kind of feeling that it's like it happens, and then obviously um, like I have like to I kind of need to have like times in my life where I feel a certain way, and so I do music, and then I have other times where I'm kind of taking a break from those type of feelings, emotions, and then I work on visual arts. It's not very often I work with the same intensity at both. Like usually, especially with music, I like to take like I don't know, maybe like a few months or something. It's like where I just only focus 110% on music. And usually it's like when especially with music, when I have nothing else to do, you know, even if I have like, oh, like on this morning, I need to do, I don't know, go to the doctor, something like that. That to me that day is probably already not going to work on music. I really need to feel like there's nothing happening. There's, you know, nobody around me, and I just work on music. Artwork, it's like I could be traveling. It's like I do a lot of artwork when I'm on tour. You know, I'm on the bus on my laptop, and I just either study new software or like do artwork. I can't really be creative doing music when I'm on the road. So they are in a way, yes, like they take a different kind of of my time, and I dedicate specific times for each one of these two aspects.
It's great that you have kind of like elements. You could almost kind of like make a Venn diagram of the similarities and the differences between them.
Yeah,
Yep. And I
for
have
sure.
two more questions for you. That's cool. I'm not sure if we have a time limit.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, but
all good.
kind of going back to with Light the Torch, that like, another thing is that Light the Torch has always played with a variety of different bands. Like, I mean, one minute you're touring with Lacuna Coil, then the next minute you're touring with In Flames, and then yeah, you did Mark Morton, and then like so many different styles. Norma Jean. Like, have you noticed like maybe different reactions or different like types of audiences depending on the tours that you've been on?
Yes, yes. I think like fortunately we're it's like when you're in a band that doesn't have like I don't know. I mean, obviously there's a lot of people still saying like it's a metalcore band because automatically like because where we come from, and it's like to me, I still think it doesn't really sound like a metalcore band, but it does have like the elements that work in all this other, because we can go on tour with Lacuna Coil because we have the melodic aspect, but we can go like if we want to do like a heavier tour, we can we have the songs that are gonna also like satisfy, I guess, that type of crowd. And ultimately, I think, like, especially Howard being such a like presence, and everybody knows Howard's voice. They're familiar with that. So if you're into it, that's almost like half of the sound that people are looking for. And yeah, I love this fact. It's like that, with All Shall Perish, for example, like touring was a bit of the same kind of bands. You always kind of end up touring with really that genre. You can't really do much more and anything much different, right? But with this, I mean, we went on tour with Papa Roach and Five Finger Death Punch. It's like and still when we were Devil it's like it's all kinds of weird things. We toured with Black Label Society and Down. It's like it's awesome. It's like I love being able to do all kinds of different stuff.
Do
And
you
yeah,
do you though like adjust the set lists like depending like okay, like you're touring with like In Flames now, so maybe bring out a little bit more deep cuts from They Bleed Red or The Beauty of Destruction, and okay, now you're on tour with Shine Down, let's just play Revival in its entirety or something like that.
well, yeah, for like until like the especially with the Revival, more and more we started feeling like, okay, let's stop playing songs from Devil days. It kind of feels like it's a different time. And but I mean, there were songs like Consume the Damned, the first song from They Bleed Red. That's still a song that's so much fun to play, and no matter what tour we're doing, it's just people are into it.
Yeah.
And so there's like, yeah, definitely, like, it's smart to be able to adjust the set list depending on the tour.
Yeah, I want to say I saw you when I saw you at Incarceration Fest. I was watching from the side of the stage, but I think I could be wrong, and it's obviously subjective, but I think you were the heaviest band on that festival. I mean, it was like you played the same day as Godsmack, I think it was, and like yeah, and like the rest it
Yeah,
was.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm not undermining the other bands, but like Starset was on there, who I know you've played with before, and then like you had I Prevail from Ashes to New. Like I think you spawned the biggest mosh pit that whole day.
Yeah, probably. I see. And then I know it's like we also like that challenge of being like we stand out in a way. It's like if it's a matter of like being the heaviest, maybe some of that crowd is gonna be like, what the hell is that? It's like, but at the same time, they'll remember you in a way. It's just like you make an impression. I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, and you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Like I think to a metal elitist, a song like "Embracing the Torture" is like Share to them, and then the most melodic song, like "The Bitter End," would be like Emperor to the radio crowd. So.
Yeah, it's exactly.
Yep. So before we go, I want to hey, thank you so much for your time today and for such a great
Thank
conversation.
you, man.
Is there just anything else with Light the Torch that you would like to promote with the release of You Will Be the Death of Me? It's coming out in June, right?
Yeah, June 25th, and there'll be some. I mean, I can't maybe say too much,
This
but
will be
we
uploaded
obviously
by midnight, so
yeah. I mean, there's plenty of time, so I'm sure people can expect, like, obviously we just released the singles, and there's gonna be like a little more of a taste of the record, before the record comes out. So just like pay attention to that, and yeah, we're just so excited finally to have people hear this, because it's been this record was supposed to come out summer last year,
oh
right?
wow.
With all the touring that we had planned and all that. Obviously, right away, like, okay, yeah, this record was all done before COVID, and yeah, it was basically like completely done right before the tour that we were on, when we had to cancel and fly back, the Killswitch tour.
Oh my god.
So
That was going
so
to be
it's
the
been a
tour of the
minute.
year. That was going to be the tour of the
Yeah.
year. Like
Oh my God. We were like, I think we only did what, 2 or 3 shows, and oh my God, some of the best shows ever. It's like, that was going to be like probably one of the best tours we've ever done.
yeah,
And
can you make up that
yeah,
lineup, please? I mean, even if you have to like hit, I know like obviously everything's up in the air, but when when it is safe to tour again, that lineup has to come back. Like, and
I can tell you 100%. That is like a priority for both, like for all three bands. We talked about it already. Management talked about it, and that tour needs to happen.
okay.
It will happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you still have very dedicated fans. I think they're still waiting outside Terminal 5 in New York City, even though it's been a year and a half. You probably have people being like, "Oh no, they're just running late. You know, they're probably stuck in traffic." But
Man.
thanks so much, Francesco. Great to talk to you again, everybody. Francesco of Light the Torch. You will be the death of me this June. Be sure to pick it up. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.